Could you imagine the absolute insanity of a world where the most explosive, game-changing weapon in this entire offense is suddenly wearing another jersey? I'm talking about a complete and utter shift in the landscape of this franchise. Right now, the rumor mill isn't just spinning, it is absolutely melting down with reports that a tag-and-trade scenario is officially, realistically on the table for our superstar playmaker, George Pickens. This isn't just some what-if scenario cooked up by bored fans on a message board anymore. We have national insiders, the heavy hitters of sports media, planting their flags on this story, and if they're right, it could fundamentally change everything we know about this team's future and its identity. Before we dive headfirst into this absolute chaos and dissect what this means for the roster, the cap, and the culture of this team, do me a massive favor. If you live and breathe for this team and you want to stay ahead of every breaking update, hit that like button, share this video with a friend who needs to hear the truth, and subscribe to the channel right now so you never miss a beat. Let's get into the absolute meat of this because Ian Rapoport just dropped a massive bombshell that has sent the entire fan base into a state of pure, unadulterated shock. According to his latest update, the front office is, obviously, going to place the franchise tag on George Pickens. Now, look, we all expected that part. That's the safe play. It's the standard operating procedure for a team that wants to protect its assets. But here is the kicker that should have every single one of you up in arms. Rapoport is reporting that a tag-and-trade scenario is being considered as a very real, very tangible possibility. He even went as far as to suggest that getting a second-round pick in return would be really good value, since Pickens was originally acquired for a third-round pick. Are you kidding me? A second-round pick for an all-pro caliber talent who just spent the entire season torching the league's best cornerbacks. That feels less like a strategic trade and more like a total, daylight robbery. It makes you wonder, is the front office actually considering throwing away a generational talent just to avoid a difficult contract negotiation, or is this all just calculated noise designed to rattle the cage and gain leverage? Seriously, ask yourself, how can any logical person look at the production we saw from George Pickens this year and conclude that a mid to late second-round pick is a fair swap? It's baffling. It's the kind of move that keeps a franchise stuck in a cycle of mediocrity. We are talking about a player who has become the emotional and physical heartbeat of the passing game. When the lights were brightest, he was the one making the impossible catches. And now, we're supposed to be okay with the idea of shipping him off to some team like Tennessee or Carolina just to move up 30 spots in the draft. It's insulting to the intelligence of the fans who show up every Sunday. Now, we have to look at the conflicting reports here, because the landscape of NFL reporting is rarely a straight line. While Rapoport is out here talking about trades and value, Adam Schefter is singing a slightly different tune. Schefter is reporting that while the tag is indeed coming, likely to be applied sometime between mid-February and early March, he views it strictly as a placeholder. In Schefter's eyes, the tag isn't a ticket out of town, it's a tool. It's a way to buy time so both sides can get back to the table and hammer out a massive, long-term extension that keeps Pickens in the building for the next 4 or 5 years. So, you've got the two biggest insiders in the world essentially going head-to-head. You've got Rapoport looking at the exit door and the trade market, while Schefter is looking at a long-term commitment and a jersey retirement ceremony a decade from now. It's worth noting that official contract talks haven't even started yet, but the expectation is that things will heat up at the Combine later this month. But why is there such a disconnect? Why are we hearing trade from one side and stay from the other? Usually, when this much smoke starts billowing out of the facility, there's a fire burning somewhere. Is the front office leaking the trade talk to scare Pickens' agents? Or is the agent leaking it to show the team that there is a massive market for his client? It's a high-stakes game of chicken, and the fans are the ones stuck in the middle, waiting to see if their favorite player is going to be packed into a moving van. Here is the question of the day, and I really want to hear from you on this one because it is absolutely dividing the community right now. If the front office reaches a stalemate and simply cannot reach a deal, would you rather see them pay the man whatever he wants, even if it resets the market, or should they pull the trigger on a trade to get a haul of draft picks and reset the salary cap? Drop a comment below with P for pay or T for trade and tell me exactly why you feel that way. I'll be reading through the responses because this is the defining debate of the off-season. The reason people are actually taking this trade talk seriously, and not just laughing it off as off-season fluff, is because of the precedent set last year. We have to talk about the Micah Parsons situation. For decades, this team had a very predictable, almost boring pattern. They'd drag their feet on negotiations, they'd wait until the absolute last second, they'd dominate the headlines for months, and then, eventually, they would cave to the agent's demands and give the player everything they wanted. It was the Cowboys way. It was about the star and keeping the stars happy. But the Parsons trade shattered that mold. It proved that this current version of the front office is willing to move a superstar, a cornerstone of the franchise, if the vibes aren't right, if the ego gets too big, or if the money gets too complicated. They claimed at the time that moving Micah gave them the financial flexibility to pay guys like George Pickens. But if they turn around and trade Pickens too, then what was the point? Why are we clearing space if we aren't using it to keep the best players? It's like cleaning out your garage to make room for a luxury car, and then selling the car the moment you get it. It makes zero sense. Jerry Jones and the rest of the leadership have spent months spinning the Parsons trade as a necessary evil to build a more balanced roster, but if you get the offense now, you're just creating a new hole to fill. You're essentially starting from scratch every single year, and that is not how you build a championship contender. Let's talk about that value Rapoport mentioned again, because I cannot get over it. A second-round pick. That is an absolute insult to the sport of football. If you are even going to entertain the idea of moving a player of this magnitude, you better be getting the A.J. Brown package. We are talking about a first-rounder and a mid-round pick at the absolute minimum. When the Eagles traded for A.J. Brown, they gave up the 18th overall pick and a third-rounder. And guess what? They also had to pay him. People act like you trade a player because you don't want to pay him, but the team receiving him is going to pay him anyway. So why can't we be the team that pays him? Why would you trade away a proven, elite WR1 who has chemistry with your quarterback, who knows the system, and who terrifies defensive coordinators, just to get a draft pick that you'll probably use to try and find another wide receiver? It's circular logic that leads to a weaker, less experienced roster. We've seen teams like the Philadelphia Eagles prove that you can have two highly paid, elite receivers and still have a functional, winning salary cap. You don't fix a defense by gutting your offense. That's a myth. You fix a defense by drafting better in the middle rounds and using the $60 to $100 million in potential cap space that this team can easily create if they actually wanted to. Even the local media in Dallas is starting to weigh in, with veteran beat writers expressing serious doubt that a trade actually happens. They point out that Jerry Jones himself was just at the NFL honors saying he wants George to be a Cowboy for a long time. Now, we all know Jerry loves to talk. We know he loves the spotlight, and sometimes his words are worth about as much as a preseason score. But it's hard to ignore the owner publicly backing his star in front of the national media. If this trade actually happens, and especially if it happens for a measly second-round pick, it wouldn't just be a bad football move, it would be one of the biggest management failures in the history of the Dallas Cowboys. It would be a signal to every other player on the roster that no matter how well you play, no matter how much you produce, you are ultimately expendable the moment your paycheck gets too high. Think about the message that sends to the locker room. You have young guys looking up to Pickens, seeing his work ethic and his dominance, and then they see him shipped off for a draft pick that might not even pan out. It kills morale. It destroys the compete and get rewarded culture that every great coach tries to build. If I'm a young player on this team, why would I give 110% if I know the front office is just going to trade me the moment I become expensive? We have the assets. We have the draft capital. We have the means to fix this defense without sacrificing the best thing happening on the offensive side of the ball. This entire tag-and trade narrative feels like a distraction from the real issue, the front office's inability to close deals efficiently. They let these things drag out until they become toxic, and then they act surprised when the media starts reporting on potential trades. At the end of the day, this feels like a high-stakes game of poker between the front office and the representatives for Pickens. They both know exactly how valuable he is to this city and this fan base. They both know the fans will absolutely revolt if he's shipped out for pennies on the dollar while we're supposedly in a win-now window. We need to keep the pressure on. We need to make it clear that this roster needs established stars, not more potential, in the form of second-round picks that may or may not be the next bust. This is going to be a wild, stressful ride leading up to the combine and the start of the new league year, and you can bet your life that we will be here every single day to cover every twist, every turn, and every leaked report. So, what's it going to be, Dallas? Are we going to be the team that keeps its stars, or are we going to be the team that trades them away and wonders why we can't get past the divisional round? The clock is ticking, and the world is watching.